The mech manufacturer SSC is known for a grand few things tied to their chassis. Sometimes it's the elegance of it, the fine craftsmanship, the limited access. Other times it's a bit of the fringe technology, things taken from Metavault or messing with the firmament, or mixtures of biological matter messing with computer minds. But as with any megacorp, sometimes there's just a niche that needs to be filled. Sometimes it's not about the fancy gadgets, the fine craftsmanship, the experimental stuff. Sometimes you just need a spider tank. Hi, hello, and welcome back to Lancer, our favorite mech tabletop RPG, where today we're talking about our favorite spider sniper tank, Death's Head. The 6th license that we're covering, going alternatively through the different manufacturers and then alphabetically down the list. In particular with the chassis, we're talking about what you get at LL2, so license level 2, the equivalent of leveling up in Lancer, which you get each time, each license having 3. Now, onto SSC's Death's Head. We had the fancy mech thigh, saves lives, experimental mag tech. This one, still having some of that mag tech, is a bit more actually functional. It doesn't have strange thighs, it does have maybe heels or hooves as its legs on a spider? Hexapedal, sorry, not octopedal. Well, I mean, if you're counting the small hands, outside of its strange look and appearance, it is just generally built for function. It's meant to go across different terrains, just act as a stationary, while also still being mobile and able to redeploy artillery platform. Less artillery in the Barbarossa sense of just blowing away a mountain, and more artillery in the sense of, hi, I have a charged railgun going through 8 mechs. But enough about the generalization, we have the stats compared to the Everest that you get at LL0. A bit more evasion to show it's scuttering around, same with the movement and sensor range to adapt to the battlefield, but then also a bit weaker health-wise. Big hit to the repair cap, that's some delicate tech you're repairing. But you got your pictures, you got your reference, you've seen the arrows, we're moving on. So with the Death's Head, we have a size 1 mech, so the general average across the different licenses, then also a main auxiliary mount, so you can kind of mix and match them there, with then a heavy mount, namely for the big railgun you get in this license. So some variants, not limited to just one weapon of choice, but you get a little bit of flexibility. Now onto some of the traits, and previously stated, with the sniper aspect of it, we have Neuralink, allowing you to reroll your first range attack roll each round, however you have to keep the second dice option. As in you're not forced to reroll it, and it's also not just if you failed, so you could try and go for a crit if you know you're roughly around that evasion. A little bit of a gamble there, but in general more reliable hitting. And following into that reliable hitting is perfected targeting, just a +1 to ranged attacks. Just flat, just +1 to ranged attacks. Attack roll specifically, so no damage, but also not in accuracy, not difficulty, it's just +1 to hit. But now we have a lot to talk about with its core power, precognitive targeting. That is... wow. Described as advances in Neuralink and the cutting edge of AI-human mind interaction, all this information from the battlefield and the high sensors flooding into you. Fun thing with that description as well is at the very end of it, even the designers don't know how it works. The actual predictive software and precognition just isn't quite known. High-end experimental, prolonged use, not really tested before. Cutting edge. But this core power then has neural shunt, which then allows you to use the actual ability of the core power. There's a lot of layers to this. Protocol, which then gives you a new quick action, and then also another protocol. That ability is marked for death. So this can't be a target within range 5, but it can be up to 30. Again, nothing too close, more of a sniper, so try to stay out of range or mid-range. The target you have marked for death takes additional damage when you score critical hits. The additional damage is based off the weapon size you're attacking with, so auxiliary, just 1d6, main weapon, it's 2d6, and heavy and larger is 3d6 added to the attack. Now again, this is to one target, it's not buffing the weapon itself. Now to the negatives of this, you can't actually target anyone within that 5 space, that too close range for the initial marking. Also, if they're in cover, they don't actually get this benefit because the cover takes the hit. The other downside is you're immobilized during all of this, so essentially you've just clamped down onto a wall or locked into place. And also, no reactions because you're highly focused on the target. The other protocol you get is just 1 to end it and change focusing on targets, and then you can just end it as a protocol, otherwise it lasts for the full scene. Now with this, overall, pretty good. Picking a target that you can lock onto, being able to do additional damage, an additional 3d6 with a heavy, especially since you get one in the license. But that immobilized for what's supposed to be a quick, scuttering, readjusting tank and sniper, that kind of stinks. It's a lot less this bug-like thing scuttering around the entire battlefield, unable to be hit, and more just a sniper standing on 2 fort. But I think that's enough about the whole system and the general chassis itself. Now we have the other goodies you can get from the license. And I say get specifically because the first one is mag clamps, 1 system point. So right away at LL1 in this license, before you even get the chassis from it, you can get mag clamps. Now they specifically call out the image of metal, and even within their description, just rules-wise, allows you to treat any terrain as flat terrain. This is so you can crawl up on walls, up on ceilings. This doesn't mean you entirely ignore the laws of gravity and physics. If you get hit or knocked prone, you will fall. But in its general description, it's described for when it's on naval ships and vessels that it's jumping around, clanging on 0G and low gravity, walking into a hangar bay and there's just a bunch of these hanging from the ceiling, firing at you or acting as replacement artillery batteries on a cruiser, the outside of the hull in a battle, and then also the big selling point from the SSC video, because there is no size limit. Next, another utility one, we have the tracking bug, 2 system points, and where the sensor range actually comes in handy. A little more to it because this bug gives you a lot of information. So first, obviously a tech attack within sensors. As not quite a nanite, not quite a full drone, heads into a target, begins burrowing into their systems. After it's burrowed, which just requires the tech attack, you know exactly their location, their HP, structure, and speed for the entire duration of the bug. The target cannot hide from you, you ignore their invisibility status, and the entire duration is ending at a scene or if they succeed on an engineering save against you. As a quick action, so it still takes some actions. But that hurts. Like if you're attacking a boss or one really big tanky mech, being able to know all those things, just being able to know all those things, the speed, the HP, the structure, just all these different abilities tied to it, and the invisibility, if you're fighting an invisible enemy or one that's hiding or stealthing around, being able to just cancel all that. Another benefit as well, even though this is a system, it's not limited. It's not a single-use utility thing you can fire out. You can keep sending tracking bugs once you have this. If you wanted to, you can spend enough time and actions to coat the entire battlefield, or at least all enemies in it. Is that action efficient? Not really. But also because it lasts for the full scene, you can do this outside of combat as well to instantly know where an enemy is, lining up with that sniper and the enemy always being in your sights. To kick off LL2, we have the Vulture DMR, a main weapon. This rifle has a range of 15 and a 1d6 plus 1 kinetic damage. Pretty solid on its own, distance-wise. The weapon itself could really be anything. It can, I'm using this small gun on the Death's Head to represent it, but truly anything. It's the generic stock weapon for SSE. Like, it's not fancy, it's not from super high craftsman, it's just the small bit of a main rifle you throw off to the side, not the big premier weapon. And namely, it comes in many different formats. It can be drum-fed, a separate magazine, different kinds of barreling attached to it. However you want it tailored, it's thrown into the SSC chassis. Quite appropriate for a military line model. But it's also not just the distance and damage and just being a reliable gun because of its traits. It has accurate, which means by default, you're already rolling accuracy on everything to hit. Just a straight additional d6 on everything, or every time you fire this gun specifically. So even your mid-range thing, just being able to have all the other bonuses wrapped in from the Death's Head as well, just throwing in accuracy every time. You then have overkill, so if you get ones, you get to roll additional dice at the cost of heat. You can get a really good shot off that, but it also does deal 1 heat to you, as the weapon fires rapidly and takes quite a bit for its targeting. Next, we have Core Siphon, 2 system points, and a bit of equipment and systems that allows you to have a new protocol. With Core Siphon, it's all about taking power from the rest of the chassis, other systems, and driving them into one weapon, or one specific attack. This translates to the first attack that round having 1 accuracy, and then the rest of that round having 1 difficulty. Again, leading into the sniper thing, if you're going for that one big shot, this is not bad to have. You might not already be firing the next one because it takes a full action. But also, if you're firing that Vulture DMR, all the other benefits from the Death's Head, and then throw this on top of it, you are hitting. That's 2 accuracy, a free reroll on the core d20, and then also just a flat +1. Also note this said attack. Not range attack, not limiting you on walking or anything like marked for death. So let's say you're a living blender and also had some kind of heavy melee weapon and you really wanted that hit to count, you could also use Core Siphon. Death's Head license is just full of good parts. Now to kick off LL3, we have the reasonings for the Death's Head. That big gun, part of the silhouette, the glint on the thumbnail, the railgun. A heavy rifle with a line attack of 20. Dealing 1d6 plus 4 kinetic damage alongside some of its traits of armor piercing because it's a railgun, but also because it's a railgun, it gives ordnance, meaning you have to fire it before doing anything else that turn, and then also heat 2, as it takes all this power from the rest of your system and then fires it into 1 grand shot. But as with some of the other stuff within the Death's Head, while a bit more practical and less experimental and finicky, it is still cutting edge, high tech, fine class. There's no random bits of combustion just mixing in this giant gun or the industrialness of IPS-N. It's just a nice, sleek, metallic rod firing through 13 people. You really could just fire this through a group of goblins, just a whole line of them. Because a goblin has 6 health on its stats, just a little peek in next video for this. But that's a d6 plus 4, minimum's 5. And lastly, in LL3, we have the kinetic compensator at 2 system points. Quite simple and quite effective. If you miss with a range attack roll, your next range attack roll gains an accuracy. Good? Solid? Nothing too fancy? So let's say scenario that's already unlikely to begin with the Volter DMR just lightly. So we're gonna say you missed the shot you had last round. You get an initial reroll from the mech itself, you get a flat +1. With Core Siphon, you can add an additional accuracy. With the Volter DMR, you already get 1 accuracy. And with this, because you missed your last shot, you have your 3rd and final accuracy. That's gonna hit. All of this together is really good. All of this on a ranged attack with the Spider Sniper Tank, fantastic. And while it's not nearly as flashy or complex or weirdly ruled as some of the other things, or horror stuff especially, or some of the other SSC gimmicks, it's good. It's reliable. It's the Death's Head. It's one of the few mass-produced A-line chassis underneath SSC. It's a military line. It's not for fancy people to go and grab separately or to display off in a show or do missile flying tricks like the Monarch. It's a good Spider Sniper tank, holding on to the hulls of ships. Extremely popular in the Union Navy and the Union Department of Justice and Human Rights. So sure, you've got your industrial IPS-N lines here and there, being able to fill some kind of more mundane task, physical task or load. And you have the SSC, when they design a sniper, they design a sniper. You know, it's funny, we haven't, I haven't really talked to anyone else outside of, ship that not many people have been allowed on. What? Oh, right, the ad. Hi. I'm Reginald, head engineer, well, only other engineer outside of the Princessa herself. But I help around the hangar with the chassis of our fine and esteemed errant cavalier, Princessa Lucia Bonchine Lontaine of the House of Glass. Call sign Last Pedal. The Princessa herself isn't here because she had other business to attend to. Other business. But I have been just as fine with the works and as close to the chassis herself, second to the lady. And what a fine chassis it is. That whole license and all the previous works, like, fantastic. For initially starting out her quests around the lattice work, being able to jump from side to side, the entire station works, just acting as her own web for the hexapedal spider-like chassis. Nothing being able to get out of the way. Those trying to run away on stolen ships, no chance with the railgun piercing through their holes, bits of traitors just flying out the breaches, anything looking for tracking on the battlefield, foreign lands, countrysides, or even internally on the stations themselves, she would find them and she would hit them. And in those brief moments where everything pieces together, the Princessa herself, led, guided by the Death's Head to be united with the passions, marking her foes for death. While there are those that charge into the front, an obvious target here and there, being able to take the finest shot in all the galaxy, just being taken from the ceiling, the side of the ship, any angle, and knowing exactly where to hit them with the connection of mind, body, soul, and chassis. Princessa, any cavalier, what you call lancers out there, taking on the Death's Head is going to hit that target. Thank you for watching the video about the Death's Head. Leaned a bit more into the general description, with just the general chatter about it, and less with the pilot, not pilot segment this time around. But overall, the Death's Head kind of is that strange niche or that clearance. Like, you see the rest of the licenses from SSC, and the Death's Head is just a functional mech. You see it in some other bits of media here and there, it's the Spider Tank. And additionally, the Spider Tank in the sense of climbing on walls. And while Marked for Death might be a little clunky, it can do some serious damage. And besides that, everything else from the license is just solid. Or at least with the right build and weapon usage. But I mean, come on, this allows you to walk a Barbarossa up a wall. But sorry for the delay on the videos, I'd like to apologize for that here. Thank you for watching again. A thank you to my patrons and your patience. Oh, have a nice day.